Start us off, Carter.
Do 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 do. Bum 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 bum. It's time to play the music. It's time to hand out awards. It's time to talk about the NFL players tonight. It's time to. Oh, I really should have written that one out. You know what?
You were
I
doing great.
completely fucked that up.
You were on great start.
Really, honestly, I'm surprised I got 4 lines in. Anyway, it's time to give some hot takes. It's time to shame some teams. It's time to raise the curtains on the award show tonight. I don't know. There. It's welcome to Carter. It's Kevin and Carter Explain Football. Carter here.
I'm Kevin, and they're about to announce the Defensive Player Award. Not the rookie, just the player. So.
Yes. Fittingly enough, we decided to do our Pro Bowl week / award show celebration at the same time the NFL honors are going on. Did you watch any of the Pro Bowl material?
I watched some highlights of the games, but not the actual flag football game itself, except for one play where they just cleared out the AFC's defense on the bench to try and get, I think, Gibbs. And it was silly, and I liked it.
Yes, I think I've seen a single highlight. I think I've seen a single play. But yes, unfortunately, the Pro Bowl isn't where it's at anymore. It's all about the awards, baby.
Yep.
So we're going to take a little bit of time on our penultimate episode for the season to kind of talk about the stuff we love from this season. The winners, the losers, our sweet baby boys, and how we think everything went.
I'm excited. Oops, that was the wrong sound. Patrick Surtain wins Defensive Player. Checks out.
Yeah, that tracks. When there's not a dominant enough defensive end, they usually just go with who represents the most fun defense.
Yeah. Plus that.
Anyway, shall we get?
That makes Zach Bond's contract for next year cheaper, hopefully. Alrighty.
Thank God.
So we started off, I think, during the draft season with our predictions. Was it during the draft?
We made a handful. I think right after the draft, once free agency was done, we gave ourselves some predictions. A reasonable prediction, an out there prediction, and a wild card prediction.
Ooh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We know I do not know what I'm talking about.
You know what? You went for it. That's what makes you special.
I sent it.
You know, I played it safe, I feel like, on some of mine. You threw caution to the wind, really stuck your neck out. And the thing about that is, sometimes you can stick your head out of a moving car and hit a stop sign and get your head cut off. That's a Hereditary reference for kids keeping track of your A24 sort of psychological horror movies. But yes, so first off, our reasonable predictions. Mine was Derrick Henry leads the league in rushing touchdowns. And you know what? I was close.
You were close.
He was tied with 3 other people.
Who are the other 3, though?
Yes, the 3 who all had 16 touchdowns are Derrick Henry, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, and Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. I just really felt that people were fading Derrick Henry going into this year, where they're like, oh, he's kind of getting older. What has he really got? And I was just like, this dude is a freak of nature. He's one of one in terms of physical attributes of a running back. And despite them multiple games not feeding him, there was a very real chance we had 2,000-yard rushers this year. He ended up with 1,921. And if they wanted to, because I'm going to be real with you, it really felt at times they were really pushing to get Lamar the MVP. If they really wanted to, they could have given him the 10 more carries he would have needed to get to 2,000.
Yeah.
Stretched out over a couple games. There were a couple games where he, and I'm pulling up his game log now, there were a couple games where I think he had sub 15 carries.
I feel like that's
particularly
insane.
A Steelers game. Right? Doesn't it feel like he should just be a guaranteed 20? Yeah. The Raiders game, 18. The Bengals game, 15. Tampa Bay, 15. Well, he had 169 yards in that game. He did the work. Against the Browns when they lost, he only had 11. Against the Bengals again, he only had 16. Against the Steelers when they lost, they only had 13. He had 14 against the Giants when they probably just could have run up the score.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where he really could have and didn't. But the question is, looking at NFL scoring, did he have the most touchdowns overall? I do not believe he had the most touchdowns overall. That honor went to Jahmyr Gibbs with 20. Derrick Henry only had 18. So I kind of get half credit for that one.
I'll give you half credit. I'll give you partial credit for him leading the TD.
Yes. And yours was a career-ending...
Yeah.
How do you want to word this?
So mine was a career ender to an elite. So somebody who's either been in the league a while or is just that top tier, and they just suffer that that injury that's just like, I'm done after this. Like I can't bounce back from this. And I mean, I feel like, am I wrong if I suggest Brandon Graham? Like, he's got this timetable open. Like, he's already declared it's his last season. He's got the possibility of being in the Super Bowl, but he was not possible to be in like any other game of the season or of his post-injury of the season. So it's like, is that like a wrong statement? That was the only one that I really like thought of like, you have a career, like your career is done after this. There hasn't. I mean, Tank Dell's leg exploded, but I wouldn't call him an elite. There was a lot of...
Right, and he will be back.
Yeah. There's a lot of safety for your higher end, like, olds, like, your elite level talent. So it was like... I don't think anyone suffered something crazy bad. Like, we didn't see...
Right.
Jamar Chase's arm fly off his body.
Right. Honestly, in terms of, like, upsetting or disturbing injuries... I mean, Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg, but he'll be back.
He'll be back, yeah.
And then...
also, still a little too new, in my opinion, to be considered elite.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to have, like, at least 3 solid seasons under your belt. And, like, doing real good in all those to be called elite. Oh, Snoop Dogg just showed up in a Steelers uniform?
Oh, good lord. But yeah, also... But also, like Chris Olave, who we wouldn't call elite, but he is probably going to have to consider retirement after a scary string of concussions.
Yeah, Chris Olave.
But I do think this applies.
Same with Chris Godwin. He had a pretty nasty injury, too, but I think he's going to be back. I think he'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah, I think this applies. And, like, yeah, it is weird to think, like, one of the last sort of, like, pillars of the first Eagles Super Bowl run is finally getting ready to hang it up. It's kind of wild looking at how different the two teams are. I thought there was more carryover.
Even from their last appearances. The Eagles...
Oh, yeah.
The Eagles have, like, an entirely new defense with the exception of, like, Josh Sweat and BG. And technically, CJ started for them, but then he left and came back, so... I feel like that's not the same. That counts as 2 separate people.
Oh, yeah. I actually heard an interesting take that Brandon Graham insisted, like, so there was a little kerfuffle for people who don't remember during the season. It was that Panthers game where it was closer than it probably should have been, and it came down to the last couple plays. And you know, there was a little kerfuffle about, like, the pass game not clicking, A.J. Brown being, like, annoyed. And, like, Brandon Graham just goes, yeah, you know, they've been kind of at each other's throats a little bit. And then later he goes, oh, you know, they're fine. I was just talking out of my ass. And someone suggested that he knew exactly what he was doing. He basically was like, I need to get the 2 children to stop bickering with each other, so I'm going to embarrass them in public, so they have to make up publicly. Because it's been nothing but positive vibes after that. You know, they get both Smith and AJ 100 yards after that. Everything's fine. Someone suggested it was like a deliberate attempt to be like, this is childish. We're not having locker room drama. I'm just going to drag this out and, like, kill it with sunlight.
Yeah, I feel like it's just... Yeah, he definitely, like, it is a mix of, like, speaking out of turn and just kind of, like, you do got to, like... have these young kids hone it in sometimes.
Right. It is weird to think he is, like, the sage veteran leader of this team. You don't normally get a defensive end for that, because it's like, even when the Bills had the all-time leading sack leader, I'm like, why don't Bruce Smith wasn't the leader of that team? It was Marv or Jim Kelly or, God, you could argue Thurman Thomas, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, are out there predictions. Yours?
Mine was they rethink the kickoff rule before Week 18. I think they're pretty. Yeah, I was gonna say that they're pretty content on keeping it as of right now, which I think they. I'm trying to think of the words I want to say. I think they were so dead set on it that they were just like, you know what, we're gonna fuck it. We're gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this going regardless if we're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's disappointing. I thought it would lead to more dynamic plays, but here's the thing with the XFL, they push it almost to the 40 if you kick it into the end zone. Yeah. If you want to do this, you have to commit. You have to do it exactly like them, where there is an actual penalty for kicking it into the end zone. Because right now, it's like, well, it's only marginally more forward than it would have been in the old system.
It's
not
that much. It's like it went from what, the 20, 25 to the 30. I feel like that's not saying much.
Mm-hmm. But you need to make it more extreme if you want it to actually lead to basically give the Devin Hesters of the world another chance. And also, I will say, the onside kick thing really does cheese me off. I hate that
rule. I hate that rule more than anything else. If you can extend that onside kick to 20 yards to get it past your line plus 10 yards, I'm okay with it. Mm. But you just can't be the declaration of it pisses me off because there's no kick-ass surprise onside kick anymore.
Right, and I know I shouldn't be preaching about we have to bend a little bit on safety to add the onside kick, considering my season was fucked because Christian Benford got hit on an onside kick at the end of the Ravens game to get his concussion. But I just think this might be one thing we can mildly bend on, because it's it should onside kick should, I don't know, do we want kickers to be a part of this game or don't we? We need to give them all the avenues to impact the game in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Mine was a non-QB wins the MVP award. And I should be right. I'm not going to be. But there are multiple viable candidates this year.
You might not be, because Offensive Player of the Year is Saquon.
All right. I was worried they were going to do splitsies with Josh and Lamar for Offensive Player of the Year and MVP, and I would have been pissed for Saquon if that happened.
Yeah. Oh, Joe's also watching.
But yes, and I will talk more about Saquon when we do our MVP discussion. But let's be real. If they did it fair's fair, objectively best player gets it. No more of this position you value horse hockey. I would be right. So I'm giving myself a big old W for this one.
Plus, he won the Offensive Player. How often do they double up Offensive Player and MVP? I would assume not.
Almost never.
Yeah. So, and despite having a record-worthy season, career-worthy season, I feel like that's gonna rule him out. But if he didn't win that, he would be it would be dumb if he didn't get it. All right, and then our wild card ones. Boy, were we off on this one? Care to say yours?
I'll defend mine. Mine was the NFL is going to stop doing international games, and look,
they're talking about doing one in Australia now.
Yeah, they're going to do one in Australia, but I'm that's where the bubble's going to burst, because that is such a distance to fly. It's going to mess up time zones so bad. It's going to create chaos. And not to be a downer, but given the current geopolitical situation, this decision might be made for the NFL. America's not doing so hot right now, kids, and they've made enemies out of most of the allies who would be willing to host an NFL football game. there's a non-0% chance, like, a bunch of countries are like, we don't want this anymore. So I might get proven right by accident. And also, like, what games were good this year? What games were, the Brazil game was a disaster. The field was a mess. People were slipping and sliding.
Yeah.
The Packers season almost got derailed. Put a gun to my head, I can't tell you a single interesting London game. Like, I'm validated. Fuck the haters.
No, I think you're right with your statement of there wasn't like a single interesting, or like the Brazil game, agreed, was a mess. The London games, they start the Jaguars. So really, what's going on?
Right. The Jaguars somehow finding a new rock bottom for a team that has had a lot of rock bottoms.
Yeah. But nah, it's I kind of agree where Australia might be the one that is just like, this is too far. Now, if they did like an exposition game instead of the Pro Bowl, like flag football game for like the third and fourth, like the losers of the conference games or something like that, I can see game like international games being like cool like that for like a far distance. But
right.
I don't see a point in going like halfway around the world, 17 million hour flights with about the same amount of weight in people. And it's just like, that's going to be insane. And that's like a hard time change too. So it's like, you got to give them like a Thursday night game before it, and then their bye week like has to be after that. So yeah, I don't know. It's really out there.
Yeah, I really do. Like, I just think the bubble's gonna burst. I'm considering this like a soon to be validated one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, yours.
Yep. Man,
the Raiders will win their division.
What a dumbass.
If you're right about this, that's why you do a wild card. Because if you're right, you're really right.
Oh yeah, that's one of those bets you go, I'm gonna put $5 that I can afford to lose this on, and just slide it across the table and go, Raiders win the division. Where it's like, right. Oh no, I lost $5, or oh no, I made like $100,000.
What's the line from Office? If anyone ever actually gives you 1,000,000 to 1 odds, take those odds.
Yeah.
Because if it hits,
it hits.
But okay, here's what I'll say. Like, they weren't an untalented team. It felt like, people are going to keep fading the Chiefs. And I'm going to be honest, it's another one that I think might get validated in the near future. Like I said, and I'm going to talk about the Raiders later, they have assembled a weird super team of coordinators and coaches. Yeah. It really is, again, they did lose Devontae Adams, but other than that, it's basically the same competent team that went on a hot streak at the end of 2023. And it really just comes down to if they can just get the damn quarterback that they've wanted for 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They got Brock Bowers being a freaking monster tight end now. Max Crosby is his same insane self. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year.
Oh, good for him. It is so. I did think for a minute they were going to give it to DeMar after that, like, chastising during the regular season. Do you remember that? They were like, my God, hey guys, let's just remember this award is supposed to be for people who overcome injuries, not just people who sucked butt cheeks and then got good later. Remember?
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, this is kind of cringe, man.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
I really thought they were going to get... But then... And basically Sam Darnold's like, what the fuck? You couldn't wait 1 more year to decide this?
Yeah.
But anyway, shall we do a little recap about our Baby Boy Coalition? It started with us referring to the Texans as our sweet summer children, and now we've just kind of committed to infantilizing grown men.
Yes.
But we're older then. So it's kind of okay.
It works for now.
Um,
I don't know why I said it
we'll come
for
up with
now.
a better name
like
for it
we're
later.
not. I was gonna say I don't
We'll
know.
workshop a better name.
I said for now, like we weren't going to. We were all of a sudden going to be younger than them. It's like they'll age, and it's like yeah, but so will we. To start off this
Yeah,
list,
well, we'll get in some sky high shenanigans.
yeah, start off this list. We got C.J. Stroud,
A interesting year.
OG baby, sweet baby boy. Very interesting year.
Yes.
Texans started pretty hot. Things were firing on all cylinders, but then injuries started happening. Stephon Diggs out. Tank Dell legs exploded.
Omega out.
Yeah. And then kind of started falling apart. They turned it up at the end of the season.
They did win a playoff game.
They won a playoff game. They beat their last 2 games of the season. They kind of showed their division who was boss, and then they absolutely made the Browns look like a fool. Nope, that's last year. My bad. I'm way too far.
Oh, whoops. No, they beat the Chargers, buddy.
They beat the Chargers looking good, and the last game of the season they still looked good. And then they put up some solid fights in most of their losses, with the exception of the Ravens game. But I would say it is a sophomore slump based off of his rookie season, but they're still not out of the conversation yet. Still got 10 wins. Still won the division. Not as easy as they would like to, but they won it.
Right. And it's what we were talking about with Daniels, where it's like, the problem with a meteoric rise is like people think progress is linear, and sometimes you just have a slightly worse year than the year before.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting looking just at his raw numbers. Last year he was 23-5 touchdown to interception ratio, the best interception ratio in the league at only 1% per throw, whereas this year he had 12 interceptions, 2.3. His success rate was down 3%, and he got sacked almost 20 more times. And that really is where it is. It's like, the offensive coordinator took the fall for all of this, and I do think it's apt because it's like it just felt like when things started going wrong for the team, they never really changed and just kind of banked on like, well, the magic will happen again, right? We did magic last year, surely magic will happen this year. Not really appreciating like living on the margins of your young quarterback doing rope-a-dopes and whoopily-loos and throwing like a 30-yard bomb on 3rd and 17. Like it's weirdly the play against the Chargers in the playoffs was like a microcosm of the previous season, where like the snap gets bungled, he's running for his life. It looks like it's going to be like a 20-yard sack to end the half. He manages to throw it like 40 yards across his body to like basically change the momentum of that game. And it's like, well, yeah, of course that didn't happen as much. That's just not like sustainable. And you hope that like a part of the progress for building into next year is like figuring out how to make an offensive system that isn't so dependent on a high wire act and can be more just like consistency.
Yeah. I can agree to those terms.
Breece Hall, I forgot I put him on this list.
Yeah, you did.
I really liked Breece Hall, and I don't know if I have to say I need to eat crow for this game, or if it's more not a single talented player is going to succeed on the New York Jets. He had an okay year.
Yeah, what was that? He had an okay year. I think Aaron Rodgers' office takeover, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Yes.
It's
the bones of this team were broken to fit the needs of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. So I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, no, his season kind of was all over the place.
Right.
But
he did end up getting his third straight year of he still got his third straight season of 1,000 yards. He had 101 catches and 7 touchdowns. I'm looking at Garrett Wilson's stats. Because he's also pissed off. Apparently, he's considering asking for a trade. 209 carries for 876 yards. It really was like, and like you watched him, it was a combination of things. It was One, he just looked a little slower. Like it felt like the knee thing was still dragging him down compared to Brandon Allen, who's the hot young thing.
Mm.
And also, like, you can just tell the guys Aaron Rodgers likes and who he doesn't.
Yeah.
Because, like, it just felt like he was in the doghouse the whole year. They kept putting Allen in. They kept, they kept screwing around with, like, shotgun snaps and stuff. Or, like, running backless, like, stuff. Like,
Yeah.
in reality, Brees should have had 250 carries. Like, he should have been really pushing the number of carries up a lot compared to his previous years. This is his first fully healthy year. And instead, it felt like they grounded him. He had less carries than last year, the year he was coming off an ACL tear.
Yeah, no.
And in general, it just felt like...
It felt
I
yucky.
almost don't know how to describe it.
I'm going to say yucky.
Yeah, the entire offense felt yucky, and he, more than anyone else, kind of got the brunt end of that.
Yeah.
I believe he can turn this around, but I don't know... If it is with the Jets, it certainly can't be with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
but I don't know what else they're going to do.
You get Hall or you get Rodgers. You don't get both.
Yeah, you get, well, honestly, you get Hall, you get Sauce and most of the defense and Garrett Wilson, or you get Aaron Rodgers. Because I will bet you my bottom dollar a lot of those guys are going to bounce if they have to put up with this shit much longer.
Yeah, no. Contracts will not very easily be renewed.
Right. I actually wanted to look at this. Last year's draft, I'm just thinking about, I believe the what was it? The Jets drafted an offensive tackle. And I'm kind of curious. I'm like, should they have just drafted a quarterback just to be safe? Be like, Aaron, you're 40. Come on, man. This isn't an ego thing. Like, we're just getting ready for the next season. Yeah, the Jets drafted well, their only option would have been Bo Nix, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have been the worst choice. I'm like, I don't know. With this much talent, could Bo Nix kind of just scrape along and get them into the playoffs like he did the Broncos? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought they still had a chance to get Penix, because I'm like, if you put Penix on this team, they might have competed for the division.
Yeah, they would have been a bigger threat if they had put in Penix and Rodgers got hurt again in one play, which would have been fucking hysterical.
It literally would have been the exact same thing that happened with Penix in Atlanta, weirdly, in terms of like, oh, he steps in because the quarterback with an Achilles tear isn't quite ready to actually do it.
Yeah. Hold on. So, give me 1 second. I want to see if I know how to spell, first of all. So the year before Rodgers started was... he started at the end of 2023, correct? Rodgers on them guys? So I feel like that's the draft where it's like, all right, which rookie could we have taken then for the 2020...
Right.
Oops, I went too far. So let's see. They were at 15. So who's the first quarterback drafted? Will Levis was the next drafted quarterback after that. So actually they might have... I still don't think they made the right decision with Rodgers because they traded way too much for him.
Well, Will Levis would have been at least interesting.
Yeah, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker.
All of those memes on the Jets?
Yeah. They would have just been a meme team.
I could have gotten behind that.
Yeah.
We kind of... Well, all right, the next one is a little better. Bo Nix.
Bo Nix, I felt like, was a very fun addition.
This was a U edition, right?
Yes. I felt like who are they called? They're Broncos. Apparently, I became stupid in between recordings.
You gotta stop going under those coconut trees, man. You have really bad track record with those.
Yeah. Anyway, just taking the millennial pause.
Just anyway.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was
that happened.
It was a post Broncos country Let's Ride world. And Bo Nix, at least according to me, felt like that perfect. Like, he's not going to be the best probably out there, but if you want to build somebody to be competitive during a rebuild era,
Oh yeah.
he's a great choice, and I feel like I was relatively right about that.
No, honestly, I've warmed up to him a little bit. The year, let's not sugarcoat it. The year started off fucking horrific.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
all of the doubters were truly affirmed. He threw 4 interceptions in his first 2 games, including one that the commentator went and when he clearly threw it into triple coverage.
Yes.
You never want the man. But then by like midway through the season, it really was weirdly the first Kansas City game where they lost on a blocked kick, where they actually had a chance to win it. Of course, those sneaky little bastards got their hands up. Where he actually looked like it felt like they finally figured out the offense they were supposed to be running with him in terms of like hyper efficient, 2 deep shots a game, lots of screen passes. Again, it looked like later Drew Brees when they got Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas was still good at football. In terms of like, all right, your arm's kind of going, and you're not as fast as you're not as elite, but like, what do we got? Yeah, and you're exactly right in terms of like, not only does this let you get out of not only does having him on a rookie contract get you out of those
like
Russell Wilson dollars, dead cap hell, but also like your defense is so good that if you just double down, again, like you were able to get to the Super Bowl with an elite defense and Peyton Manning's arm that was actively falling off his shoulder.
Yeah.
Can you get there with just a guy who's just good?
And
I'd like to believe
it's
so.
plausible. I mean, honestly, this would be an excellent team for like Cooper Kupp to be traded to. I feel like Cooper Kupp.
Actually, you're dead ass correct.
He's that great like their main receivers are Cortland Sutton, who has always disappointed. He's pretty good, but he's always disappointed me when I draft him in fantasy.
Right. He is one of those guys who you're like,
he's
I feel
blacklisted.
like he should be a level better than this.
Yeah, he's blacklisted.
Well, yeah, I blacklisted Cooper Kupp after he fucked me.
Yeah. But Marvin Mims Jr., he was getting a lot of touches. He was looking good.
Yes. He really came on at the end of the year as a gadget player.
Yeah. So, he's... Yeah, I think adding Cooper Kupp to that fray makes Bo Nix very terrifying. Draft the top rookie running back at the time.
Oh, yeah. See, he's an actual fun... Like, Ashton Genty, everyone's assuming he'll go to the Cowboys, but I'm like, what are the actual fun teams he go to? And immediately I'm like, oh, the Broncos.
Snoop Dogg's reading the Inner Excellence book that AJ was caught on the sideline with. They're really not letting this go.
It's fun. It's a good meme.
It's a great meme. I just think it's hilarious that he's Snoop Dogg reading it of everyone. And Saquon won the Jim Brown Award. But yeah, no, Bo Nix, I feel like has a pretty solid future at the moment.
Yes, I like that one. And then maybe our worst pick of the bunch, the Indianapolis Colts. Just all of them, I guess.
Yeah, I think you picked them as a whole.
Yeah, I gotta eat crow on this one. Well, it's like I said during our discussion. It was a disastrous season, not because their record was awful, but because they didn't get the goal. If the goal of the season was to figure out if Anthony Richardson's your guy, like if you can go forward with him as your star quarterback and build around him, you learned nothing. Nothing was learned. Nothing was gained from this season. You're more confused about whether or not Steichen is a good coach and whether or not Richardson can do it, like whether or not he's like quote unquote like serious enough about being a great quarterback. Like everything that could have went wrong this season in terms of like making no progress whatsoever kind of became true.
Yeah, they're very much in nowhere land at the moment.
Truly stalled out.
I think they're good enough and in a crappy enough division that they could be the 500 club. but I don't think they have the ability, at least with how they ended, especially how they ended. They're not looking like they're going to be able to make any playoff pushes. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Giants. Just saying.
Right. They lost to the Giants. Again, like if it doesn't work out for them, the story of like this era will be Anthony Richardson pulling himself out of a game because he was tired.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's.
But
they don't got much going on, and they're kind of in. They're very much in purgatory. They're in the medium place, where it's. Who knows where they're gonna go, but it will not be. I don't think it'll be good
nor great.
Bad. Yeah. All right. Shall we get to the actual awards?
Hell yeah.
Our awards, which
Starting
are cooler
off
than
strong.
the NFL's.
Woo!
All right.
Yes. First off, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I guess I gotta ask, for your approach, are you trying to avoid the obvious? Because, like, obviously, Jaden Daniels is Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
But it's like, there's a lot of guys who had really cool, successful seasons.
Yeah, I went for I tried to for like the majority of teams be like not middle of the pack, but like I didn't want to focus on people that were like highly like Jane Daniels is almost certainly going to get Rookie of the Year, but like who also secretly deserves it.
Right.
So I said, like, if I was thinking specifically, I did it like two ways. If I'm thinking specifically Eagles and who's not on my team. So, specifically Eagles, it's Quinyon Mitchell. Dude locks down people, makes these terrifying interceptions that would really ruin things for people, but, you know. But the player I went for that's not on my team is Ladd McConkey.
Another great pick.
He is like in that position where if you're talking about rookie receivers exclusively, he's gonna get a lot of he would get a lot of talk and chat, but they add in the quarterbacks and stuff, so like that they take up a couple spots.
Right.
Yeah, nah, he's severely underrated for how good he did this season and has a solid future.
Right. In a year with like arguably like what were considered 4 elite wide receiver prospects who, with the exception of Rome, all kind of had very good seasons in a very crowded wide receiver field. He arguably held his own with every single one of them. Particularly coming on late and having a particularly good playoff game in spite of how bad it generally went. It really does feel like, I don't know, did people just overthink it drafting him? I know he had some injury history, but like, yeah, it just felt like a no-brainer. It's like, you know, reliable hands has a very deep route tree. Like, it just felt like a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, that's clear.
Yes. I wanted to put Brock Bowers. I feel like, but then I'm like, is that also too obvious? It has been confirmed he's the only other rookie to receive a single first-place vote for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
But I would be remiss if I didn't just rattle off his records. Broke Mike Ditka's record from 1961 for most receiving yards with a tight end. 9th all-time in rookie receiving yards. Broke Puka Nakua's record for most receptions. Set a franchise record for receptions with the Oakland Raiders. Not tight end. Any rookie or any player. Set all-time rookie record with 110 catches. Just shattered, broke it broke basically every record that's a rookie pass catcher and every record that's a rookie tight end now belong to him. Mm-hmm. Truly an elite season. But for my actual pick, I put Bucky Irving, and this might be a homer pick because I had him on fantasy. But like, if one of the reasons why the Buccaneers sort of surged this year and were able to go up the next level, it is and basically got their offensive coordinator the Jaguars job, is because for the first time, literally since pre-Tom Brady, they were able to run the ball. And a part of that is quietly, Bucky Irving had an incredible rookie season,
Incredible.
averaging 5 yards a carry as like the second back. And one of those like it's just one of those guys who just was capable of like a game-breaking, back-breaking run of like 40 or 50 yards. His only weakness is, for the most part, he was the number two behind Rashad White. And I do think that's going to change going forward because they did start to lean on Bucky.
They
going
leaned
down
on
the
him at the
stretch.
end of the season, which I know all too well because I had Rashad White.
Yes. And yeah, like, good vibes guy on a great offense that made the playoffs. And like, if there is a weird little window where the Buccaneers can really compete, I think I think it will be largely on his back. Like, finding a sort of surprise success rookie running back really does open up a lot of doors that were previously closed.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of rookies, Jared Verse won rookie defensive player.
Another guy who just supercharged the rebuild for his team.
Yep.
The How Did You Get There award, team with an unpredictable ranking.
Yeah. So like at the beginning of the season, if we were to rank all the teams, like it's literally like I would have never put you in this general area, whether it be higher or lower than expected.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm going to start off with mine obvious one, talk about in a lot of episodes, Washington Commanders. The
zero to hero story of the season.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of faith going on for them for the future seasons. But yeah, zero to hero big time.
Yes. What more can you say then? They went from a team that's owner was hiding out from in international waters to a team that reasonably can compete for a Super Bowl now.
Mm-hmm.
Mine went with the opposite perspective. The Cincinnati Bengals. Granted, there was a lot of concern about Joe Burrow's risk going into this season, but it is weird to think that, like, there are two ways to basically guarantee 10 wins. Having a solid culture-building coach like a Sean McDermott or a Mike Tomlin, or an elite quarterback. Even their worst years, even like years that are considered down years for Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, they're at least getting 11 wins or 12. Like, there is something weird and like shocking about not being able to get to 10 wins and missing out on the playoffs, even on an off year for the Bengals. But this wasn't even an off year, arguably, because they had incredible production offensively. They're one of the best offenses in the league, and yet they couldn't get over the hurdle in their division, and they lost to the Patriots, and it kept them out of the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
like they're already trying to talk themselves out of paying Trey Hendrickson, but like, if I'm the Bengals, this has to be viewed as like unacceptable. This can never be allowed to happen again. Like,
I think
you cannot have a full healthy season with an elite quarterback and play like this.
Yeah, I think at the rate they're going, if their coach isn't going to make it halfway through the season.
Right. I'm kind of shocked he didn't have to bite the bullet this season.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive. All right.
Yes. Next up.
Yes, the Apollo Award, the biggest fall from grace. I believe some of these were named by Tom last year.
Oh, yeah. He gave us like 50. We kind of streamlined it a little bit.
I cut it down last year and I cut it down some more. So I went with...
Well, what was your favorite bit?
That's the one I cut. I couldn't remember a lot of your bits this year because every time I think of my favorite bit, it's always the Santa Claus breaking in. Always like around the Christmas show. That gets me every single time. I love the Santa Claus breaking in bit.
It is one of my better ones. I gotta give myself that.
Yeah,
but
like
yes,
that's one of those like it's like kind of like earworm adjacent, where it's just like once that's in my head, it's there, it lives there, and I'm not like it shuts down for any ability to think of any of your other bids because I will be exclusively thinking of that.
Fair enough. Anyway, your pick.
So mine was Detroit, the hottest team on the field this season, guaranteed. Winner,
Yeah,
winner of
best
the
season in Detroit
conference.
history.
Yep,
Yes.
winner of the conference. Got the bye week, and then was up against the 6 seed, 7 seed,
Yes.
6 seed.
Really?
So
No.
they were against the 6 seed. 7 seed was Green Bay. And a team that, like, while doing good, should not be considered in the same conversation as the Lions if you're talking about tiers.
Oh yeah. No one's
And-
giving them a chance to win.
And they put up a little bit of a fight, but they yucked it out. They yucked it at the ending. Losing
just kind of
45 to 31.
Yeah, just kind of like, it was the embodiment of like having your worst possible game at the worst possible, like the worst case scenario is happening at the worst possible.
Yeah.
And it's sad because last season when they got closer to winning a Super Bowl, you know, Campbell talked about like, hey, we might not be able to come back. We might never make it back here again. We got to be ready for that. And it's true. Even in the best season in franchise history, they're not back. And now things are going to be very different in Detroit.
Things are going to be different in Detroit. I don't think there's a question of job security at all. But
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, they're in Detroit.
Yeah, honestly, it's the one loss from the playoffs I feel really bad about. And mine was, sorry, I scrolled down a little too far, Houston. And again, they made the playoffs. They still got a playoff win. They got more playoff wins than Detroit. It really wasn't that bad. It was just relative to expectations. And it was an important lesson that sometimes, like, we rush a little bit to crown the new hotness when when there are red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there were red flags going into the season, kind of ignore them, and it's like, oh, lessons learned. Don't assume that like the line will always go up, that progress will always be linear. Sometimes they take a step back. Always assume a bad thing can get worse. The bad offensive line from last year was even worse this year. And yeah, I just think this was it's probably the best thing that could happen for Houston in terms of like getting a little humility while still having success. It's a level of humility that wasn't like backbreaking, that didn't fundamentally change the franchise, but like, we'll let them regroup in a healthy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the real MVP.
Yeah, so we know the NFL is going to choose a quarterback, and everyone's going to be so happy about it. But the real MVP is like who actually secretly deserves it. Running backs be damned.
Yes.
And we both picked the same person. It's obviously Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley, or as I wrote, I mean, it's obviously Saquon. What are we doing here?
Yeah. No, it's obviously
Yeah, what
him.
can we say that we haven't already?
He could have... So, not only did he break the record, or not break a record, but get over 2,000 yards, he could have easily broken a record if he wanted to. The game against the Giants could have gotten his personal best, but he was on the mic and he's just like, nope, I'm done. Let the young guys eat. Like, just straight up passed it off. He could have easily won it then. He could have easily won it in a couple other games that he left early for. There's no right, like, answer.
There's no other right answer. There's no one else who's even close. Again, Derrick Henry, if you just did running backs, Derrick Henry would get votes. But, again, And here's the one thing I'll add that I feel like is the what can we say that we haven't already. I think in terms of like we talked a lot on our last episode about how Howie had done such a good job rebuilding the defense, like how much progress they made on that front. And I realized like we were doing a disservice to why the Barkley addition was so important. Again, people trying to downplay his success, at least in terms of the MVP discussion, keep bringing up like, well, they had good runners before him. And here's what I'll say. Yeah, but they haven't had leaders like him before.
True.
Again, I talked about this. They were 2-2 a quarter of the way through the season. The vibes were bad. Their turnovers were flowing like cherry wine. Like the articles were already coming out about like, Sirianni and Hurts can't stand each other. There was a very real chance during a very tight New Orleans Saints game where they poop that one. They blow that one. And there was a very real chance Sirianni gets fired mid-season. But it was a combination of the sheer talent of Saquon Barkley keeping them in every game, but also him being like a cool, likable guy and like really almost immediately stepping up and being one of the vocal leaders of this team. Like, in terms of like we talked about the NFL sort of like popularity rankings, sort of like the what's the word? Like what did I call it? The like who has the best PR? Who's the most likable guy in the NFL? Saquon has quietly rocketed up that list from this season. And I think that really did right the ship during a lot of times of tension during the season. The classic Philadelphia shakies didn't really come up as much. And I think a part of that is just having like the best player on the field, knowing without a doubt you have one of the best players on the field, if the best player on the field.
Yeah. No, they know they have one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT. And yeah, it's just a stud alert.
Yeah, easy. That's an easy one. The future site, or who or what team will we be on the lookout for next year? You're continuing on your Bo Nix positivity train with
Broncos
the Denver
country.
Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos country. Let's ride. We already talked about them a little bit in their future and what I think they could be missing, but yeah, need I say more?
Yes, and I will counter with a weird one: the Oakland Raiders. Look, I talked about this team.
Don't
they have
say they're going to win the division.
Well, no, I think the division will be tighter, but I think the Chiefs are just going to keep winning it. But like, here's the thing: the problem with this team isn't a lack of talent. They have some pretty good blue chippers. It isn't, well, coaching hasn't been great. It isn't a lack of, like, passion or fandom. They clearly all give a damn. Mm-hmm. It is, well, one, they don't have a quarterback. But two, they have had a severe lack of leadership as they keep firing coaches and creating, and I described it, the team, if you cut the team like a tree, you'd see all the rings over the years of like, oh, right, this is when Gruden was coaching the team. This is when McCown was here, or what's his name? McDaniel was here. This is, going through the different eras of the 2020s for the Raiders. I think, weirdly, Tom Brady has assembled a positive-looking group of guys. Pete Carroll, like I said, he's exactly what they've needed. An adult in the room that can handle the highs and lows of a season and just, manage a team to success. They also bring in Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator, who's quietly, who's quietly been rehabilitating himself with Ohio State.
It's still funny.
It is. But here's the thing. The problem was never the offense.
No.
I mean, people kind of caught up with it. Like, some of his, sort of parlor tricks weren't working at the back end. But it was mainly he thought he could run it like a college team and, just jettison talent. I just need my guys, the guys I trust. When in reality, in the NFL, you need talent. I think with the players picked for him, he will be much better. And I genuinely think Dion is going to push his son to the Raiders, because it's like, okay, you get a decent offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly, you get a sage NFL presence in Pete Carroll, and you got Tom Brady as the owner. That is one team I think Shedeur could actually see pretty immediate success with.
Yeah.
So I think they could be the sneaky team with a rookie quarterback who gets into the playoffs. Maybe not the conference title game, but certainly the playoffs.
No, I can agree to that.
Yes. the don't sleep on game of the season. I have a weird one for this.
What's yours? Because I'm trying to think of mine.
The Week 13 game, Broncos 41, Browns 32. A Bo Nix, Jameis Winston, absolutely bonkers Monday Night Football game for the ages. Again, it was the embodiment of what I say about like a good defensive game can also be high scoring. Because the two of them inexplicably threw for 952 yards. Winston almost had 500 in his own. The Broncos were down kind of bad for a bit, but it was two back-to-back Jameis Winston interceptions returned for touchdowns that let them rush their way back into the game. Classic Jameis game, classic good defense doing cool stuff game. Like it kind of had every stupid, chaotic thing you would want in a football game crammed into a kind of whatever Monday night slot in the middle of the year with two teams where it's like one is basically guaranteed for the playoffs and one is guaranteed to be out.
Yeah. Now that was a freaking classic. I got like three I'm floating around in my head. Because I forget which one of these was just the stupidly standout game. But, there's another. So I'm leaning towards, the Week 10 Bengals versus Ravens, 34-35. Where is it? The Week 11 Bills make the Chiefs defeated. And then the what week was that game? Why am I scrolling if I know the teams? The week, fuck if I know off the top of my head. Whatever week December 1st was, I think week 13 or 14. Eagles versus the Ravens.
Oh, yes, that was a fun one.
All great games.
All respectable picks.
I genuinely don't know which of those I would pick. I think Bengals Ravens. I think that was one of those games where it's just like, this is a fucking football game.
What's crazy is you could say both Ravens-Bengals games, and you're like, what a fucking football game.
Yeah.
But, yes. So, our question of the week. What is a different Superb Owl matchup you would like to see? We are going into a Super Bowl that is a rematch, so I'm curious, what rematch would you have liked to see?
I don't know. I'm actively pulling up a list because I kind of forgot. I'm also going with the notion that it is these year's teams.
Yes, right. We're not literally going back in time and letting the exact same teams play. That would be insane.
Yeah. Originally, it was going to be something like that. The original question of the week was like, if you could have a current year's team versus a previous year's team, like which one would you do?
I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, I couldn't words it well on the thing, so I didn't put it down.
See, the problem is so many of these teams didn't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Weirdly, Cincinnati, San Francisco, which was a famous Super Bowl matchup. I probably would have went with that because, again, it would have been some of the most intense star power on an offensive football field in history.
This could have been a fun one. 2014 Broncos versus the Seahawks.
I thought about that one, actually.
Even though the Broncos got laughed at then, I don't think they would get laughed at now.
Right. God, that was such a bummer game. Immediate shotgun snap for a safety, and it's like, it never gets better.
No.
They're fucking idiots. What? The first Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah. First Super Bowl. Kansas City versus Green Bay. Right there.
It's all right. That would have been too obvious.
For the following year, Green Bay versus Oakland.
Right, which also would have been interesting.
Yeah, no. Or
God, remember when Oakland was good?
Or 4, Kansas City versus the Vikings. That could have been a really.
Oh,
good
that
one.
actually would have been fun.
I think that one's the right answer. I think I like our
Right.
other answers, but I think that one's the right answer.
Or Buffalo, Washington. Fun.
Buffalo, Washington could have been fun. That is the third place game.
Right.
If they
See,
did
they
that.
should no. No one would ever agree to a.
No one would ever
agree
agree to a
that.
third place game.
Right, because it's like, cool, we get nothing and we risk injuring ourselves.
Yeah. That's why I think it could be if anything, it's an exposition match just for shits and gigs. But yeah, no, I think that wraps up our
Well,
words.
here's my last question for you then. What is the one moment from this season you're going to remember more than any?
I'm gonna say 2. I think there's one that sticks out in my head as just like an unforgettable moment, and I think there's the one that it's like if you ask anyone about the season, what moment it would
Right.
be. I think if you ask anyone about the season, it's gonna be Saquon's reverse hurdle.
Yeah, that's a shot of the year.
That's the shot of the year. It was gorgeously filmed, and it's an insane ass play. In my opinion, though, the real moment of the year is I'm also exclusively thinking Eagles, not as the league as a whole, because I don't think I can process that all within a short period of time. Is
Right.
when Cooper DeJean hits a double leg takedown on Derrick Henry. Literally,
that is a good one though. That was a cool play.
it was a cool play. The King is running right at this rookie who just gets him right and just puts him flat on his back.
Right.
Can't be mad about those moments. Or Tank Dell's leg exploding.
God.
That was so fucking gross, and I hated it, but I loved it.
Well, obviously the Saquon hurdle. Weirdly, if you want moments to the 2 Super Bowl teams, it's that. And as mean as, and I don't mean that. Well, actually, that Mahomes touchdown where he flicks it to Kelsey in the playoffs.
That was pretty solid.
Yeah, the likely step with his foot on the line, which kind of embodies the story of the Chiefs winning somehow every time.
Yeah, no, that it turns out that set the stone. Or stone? Tone
Maniac.
for the beginning of the season.
Right. Yeah, no, that definitely is it. But if I was going to pick one signature, that's tough. No, it's too homery to say a Josh Allen play. God, there's too many. I think what people remember from this season probably is. What would it be? Oh, it's tough. I think.
I was gonna say.
I don't know.
If you're talking as just a whole, it's definitely the fact of the Chiefs barely winning.
Right. Well, you know what? Here's what I'll say. I will say the thing everyone's going to remember is it was the year of the running back. It kind of
Fair.
the year where so many of these sort of thought of things, it became a year about playing it safe, getting explosive plays on the ground, 3 running backs changing teams and immediately finding meteoric success. I think it was a season where we finally fully pivoted away from the high flying offenses we'd seen, with a few exceptions, and the best teams all leaned into, we are going to be able to run it down your throat, and that's how we're going to change the game.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to next week?
Yeah. Next week, the Super Bowl, the big game.
Big cheese.
Yeah, the final 2 teams, the true villains of the league versus the Kansas City refs.
It is weird that people are like, "Oh, no Eagles in the Super Bowl." I'm like, you don't want to see like 3 of the 4 best offensive players in the league
It's
playing. All right, users.
yeah, no. I think it's a big factor of the Eagles just being secretly and not so secretly the league scumbags. Like
Yes.
the ability to execute the tush push to a point where they had to alter it. They had to make rules to alter it from the original way to do it to make it easier for everyone. The amount of times that the Eagles just hold on to the ball and don't score. Saquon's slide against, what was it, the Rams, to not get, instead of scoring more points, to win by more. The Eagles are truly like the scumbags, but like we are the scumbags of the league. But I think the Chiefs are definitely the villains, especially post that like Texans game where
Oh yeah.
the calls just went way too much in their favor. Like an unfunny amount of like you see Patrick Mahomes clearly flop and ow, cat just bit me.
Jesus.
She's a butthole. Gonna send her to the fucking moon. But it's like
Well,
there
that'll
was-
get people talking about it.
yeah, there was that, and
Well, see, that's our moment.
yeah.
Something about that fucking moon joke really got us.
Oh, that's yeah. Fucking Jerry Jones. I quote it
That's
every time
the
Moon Knight
defining moment
uses
of the
his
year.
finisher in Marvel Rivals. Because he goes, the moon haunts us. And I go, Jerry Jones is attacking. But
Didn't know he was a big investor in a Chinese game development company, but I welcome.
you wouldn't expect it from him, but apparently, yeah. But,
Apparently, his niche hobbies.
yeah, no. The scumbags versus the villains of the league for the Super Bowl. I can understand why people aren't happy about it, especially because it's Kansas City's chance to three-peat. But this is not the same Eagles team that they are facing from last time. This is a terrifying different iteration
Yes.
with Jalen Carter
Here's
in the middle of the
Right.
line, poking people
well,
in the eye.
yeah. That's what
Like,
I was
come
gonna
on,
say.
you can't-
I don't want.
You can't go the guy poking in someone else in the eye and not think
That'll
scumbag.
get you. Right.
They,
They're gritty. They made a team that really feels very Philadelphian.
they did a sideline interview. I think it was the Packers playoff game where it was like, you can't let them get to you. You can't let them piss you, like, annoy you into doing stupid penalties. And then the broadcast, like, that was said to the team during the interview. And then the broadcast immediately cut to Jalen Carter and then cut to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It was like, we know exactly who they're talking about. You talking the defensive line or the defensive backfield?
Right. But here, I won't make you do a prediction because I know how you are about jinxing.
Yes.
But one thing the Eagles have that will be a secret weapon to winning. Like, it'll be like obviously we didn't factor in X and Y. And one thing that if they lose, you'll be like, well, obviously that's why they lost.
I don't think it's a secret. I think it's so, like, at least from what I've been trying to stay out of the media coverage because it drives me insane.
I understand.
But I think that something that I haven't seen the most articles about, and it's something that, but like, it's talked about a lot this season, but it's not considered a main factor in this game, is going to be the rookie cornerbacks, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Like, they've had highlights all season, and they're focused more like when they make like one or two plays, but I feel like you can't, like, they're severely underestimated because they're rookies, and it's just like they're locking people down. They're getting Quinyon Mitchell has played in 3 playoff games, and I believe he's got an interception in all 3. Like, or at least 2 of the 3. I know that for a fact.
Right.
So it's like,
In a lot of ways, the new defensive backs were like, again, it's the Vic Fangio thing of like, we're going to force you to do 18 plays to get 50 yards. And the Chiefs have become the masters at that. So, like, whether or not, like, Quinn and Cooper can tackle at the level they have been really could decide this game.
yeah, especially when they're gonna be going up against people like Travis Kelce. They're gonna be if Worthy's going out to the outside, they're gonna be against him. Hollywood, like, who's the other guy I'm fucking thinking of? Is it D Hop? It is D Hop. Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's just like they're gonna be going up against all these guys on the sides, and it's just like that's gonna be like it's not an easy matchup for them.
Right.
But I think with how they've played this season, I would love to see Cooper DeJean hit a double leg takedown on Travis Kelce.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, yeah, I think that would be so. Like, if he hits it on Derrick Henry, arguably one of the best or running backs, and on one of the best tight ends of the season, I feel like that'd be entertaining as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, it's gonna be a battle of the trenches of
Yes,
who
that was going to be my thing.
it's gonna be who gets through. If Chris Jones gets through or Jalen Carter gets through.
The one strength the defense, like the one strength the Bills defense had last week, the one success they had was interior pass rush. And Ed Oliver has not had the best year. And also, he is very small compared to Carter and oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Yes, thank you. But there is a chance this is like that Buccaneers Super Bowl where it just became very clear that like any yardage was going to be a miracle for the Chiefs, and you're just like,
Okay.
right. And I think within the first couple drives, depending on what Carter and them do, I do think it could be like, right.
Yeah.
Right. This guy's the best defensive lineman in the league.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the battle of the trenches is going to be, in my opinion, probably the more fun battle to watch. Because Mahomes hasn't had the best year. Hurts hasn't had the best year. Their receivers and tight ends have been a little bit all over the place each on like usability, but the ability for but they have both have strong O lines. And both have strong players on the defense side. So it's gonna be literally like, can the Eagles open up a hole for Saquon? Can Chris Jones get through? Can Jalen Carter get through? How many people are going to be able to hold back Jalen Carter and Jordan Daniels and Milton Williams all rushing at the same time? Because each of those guys requires like 2 people to stop them from moving forward in a fast capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, I think the ultimate moment, and this is the wrestling fan of me, the ultimate moment of this game would be Brandon Graham gets cleared to play, because he's done after this. So I feel like if he's above like 75%, where it's like, yeah, you'll hurt your arm again, but you're not gonna lose it and like severely cripple yourself. Right. I think he's gonna suit up as long as that's the scenario. If he's gonna severely cripple himself, like, he probably won't. But it's like, oh yeah, you can play, but you'll have a year's worth of recovery time. He'll be like, all right, I don't care. But the ultimate moment is him going in, hitting a strip sack on Patrick Mahomes, just like he did to Tom Brady. And then he pulls a Roy Kent where he just like tactically slowly walks off the field, taps the next guy in, who would be Nolan Smith Jr., gives him a tap on the back to send him in himself, and just goes to the sidelines and chills there for the rest of the game. That would be like the hero moment.
I should have thought through that you're a wrestling fan.
I am a huge wrestling fan. I love storytelling.
Yes. I think you covered it pretty succinctly. I think for the Chiefs, it really is like, all right, can you just continually dink it down the field? Like, can you have a quarter where you get 2 drives, the Eagles get 1, and the Eagles go 3 and out, and just you create that tension, you create that stress. That is their one path, I think.
Yeah. You can't
honestly,
let
it's
the
probably
Eagles,
the best.
You can't let them get 9 yards.
Right.
That's their thing. If you let them get 9, you'll either get baited into giving them a penalty that works in their favor, or you'll get pushed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm hyped.
Is it time?
It's time.
Yeah.
I'm hyped as
This
fuck
is-
for Super Bowl.
Honestly, this is the best matchup we probably could have gotten.
I still think that Bills Eagles would have been better. I would have loved that.
Yeah,
Castle
we
Bowl
would have
been
gotten
insane.
crushed, though. Yeah, but we would have gotten crushed.
Yeah, but go Birds. Send us home, Carter.
Folks, this is what we've been waiting on. Not just what we've been waiting on, but every little kid in America growing up. If you live in a family who tosses you a football and you go out to play with your friends right after school, or maybe during recess, it's always this day. It's never week 1. It's never the preseason. It's never the Dito's Dippy Top Ball. It's the Super Bowl. This is what it's all about. The pain, broken bones, trying to get yourself mentally prepared for another 6 months of grueling pain to your body, all for that paycheck. It's time for the Super Bowl. On one hand, you have a brilliantly constructed team, an embodiment of perfect franchise harmony and order, with the most unorderly fans you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
With a superstar eagle who's finally able to spread his wings and fly to his full potential. On the other hand, you have an empire, a dynasty, one of the most iconic teams to play the sport, and one of the most famous players to play the sport. It will be a man attempting to become the greatest of all time versus a team fighting to become the best team. No matter what happens, titans will fall, empires will strain, and no matter who wins, we all lose. And when that clock strikes 6 p.m. on Sunday night,
I'm gonna have so
It
many
is
beers
time.
in my system.
for the goddamn Super Bowl.
I'm gonna
Good luck and Godspeed.